Good day everyone, it's Caitlin, and today we are making baby sacques for the 1930s, as well as some bibs. Hello and welcome. So we're going to make some outerwear for our 20th century babies. It's going to be it's going to be 1930s and then 40s. So we're going to make 3 bibs and 2 sacques or coats. So I don't have an original this time, but I do have an original pattern that's been graded up by Wearing History. So that's what we're going to use for our sacque. One of them, the outer fabric, is going to be this lovely flannel. And yes, it fits. Now the pattern says to cut it out of flannel and line it with China silk, which is what this is, a very thin silk. I may have to have a seam down the middle for this. The other option, according to the pattern, is to make it of crepe de chine, I think is how you pronounce that, and line it with flannel. Okay, I will sew those on there. We'll have just a slightly pieced lining, which isn't that big of a deal. And the outer, we're going to use this again for the outer of the other one. Alright, let's cut some more bibs. Do a fully square one, but instead of kind of coming in, we're just going to get just completely square. Alright, now I just got to cut linings for these. Alright, let's start by sewing up the bibs. I think that's the right side, so we're going to do right sides together. Leaving a space like we did last time. And same as last week, I was going to embroider these, but I can't find any of my embroidery floss again. So I guess we're going to leave these plain. Again, trim all the edges. Lining ended up being a little bit bigger than the fashion fabric, so I'm just going to trim that down. Cut in all the corners. And on this curve, we do need to clip all of that, just so it lays nicely. We'll turn that inside out in a bit. Let's do the scallopy one. I don't think we're going to quilt one this time. I think we're just going to go with plain and then embroider when I find my embroidery floss. On all these outer curves, I'm going to clip them in little triangles. And of course, on the neckline, I'm going to clip. And that should all be fine. I'm going to clip these little corners against each little scallop. And the last one. And we got the corners to clip here. Alright, move that over so that we can flip it inside out. Okay, and that just needs to be ironed. And of course I have to do it with the other two. And I see a lot more bibs that are buttoned than tied in the 1930s and 40s. So I think we're going to attempt that for closures this time, which means I can do buttonholes by machining, but we'll put the buttons on by hand. Although my machine does sew buttons on. Just go ahead and do it the period way. That could almost be a face of like a raccoon or a fox. Then there are face bibs in the 1940s. We might consider that when we do our embroidery later on. And then for the sacques, all I gotta do is pin them together, wrong sides together, and then we're gonna do a blanket stitch, which is essentially just a spaced out buttonhole stitch all the way around to attach the lining to the fashion fabric. So I'm gonna get all that prepped with the ironing. Alright, for these sacques, the first thing we need to do is actually sew up the side seams. So the last one was tied together. So last week we tied our sacques together at the arms. This one's an actual seam. Alright, let's get working on these sacques. So I'm just doing what is now called a blanket stitch. It's basically a buttonhole stitch that is spaced out about 1/4 inch per stitch. And I actually don't mind doing this. I know I always lament how much I hate buttonholes. I don't mind doing the blanket stitch. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't bother me as much as actual buttonholes. And I think it looks good on the edge of the sacques. So I'm happy with how it turned out. It's a really cute detail on the edge of these sacques that didn't require a whole lot of work or skill, but still looks very nice. And I did the same on the blue one. So I did choose red for the red one, which one's lining is red. And then for the blue one, I did the closest I had was this very light blue. And I am using beads silk or beadsmith silk, and it's size FFF. And that's what I used for the blue. Now the red one couldn't find my FFF. I used size E. So there is a size difference, and when you look at them, I do like the thicker stuff on the sacque better. So I would prefer the FFF if I were to do it over again. I would definitely go with the FFF over the size E. And I don't know if you can really see the size difference, but there is a decent, thickness difference. That's really hard to see on camera, but it is there. And unfortunately, it doesn't pop on the red as it does with the blue. So I really do wish I had really searched for the FFF of the red. But they both still looked fine. Now for ties, I thought about dyeing ties, but I really didn't think I had dye that would really look good with them. It turns out I actually do, and it's not packed up yet. So I could have dyed these, but I just decided to go with the white. There's white in the gray plaid, so I don't think it looks too terrible. I might take them out and dye them, but it might wait till we move to, just because this is totally functional as is. it just doesn't look the best. But I was, especially the red, I was really concerned with finding a red that would match, but I found out a couple weeks later while dyeing some other ribbon that, yeah, it actually, the red I have does match that silk fairly well. It's a little bit darker, but it would work just fine. So I might go back and dye those later. Alright, here's the finished project. So a little change of venue, I decided to do it on the antique chair because I thought it would be a nicer angle than going straight towards the ground. So hopefully this helps a little bit, but let's look at them all. Look at this in a little bit. So bibs, same as what we did last month. I do like the shape of that one. And of course these that will be decorated as soon as I move and find all my embroidery floss. That one, which again I think would be a really cute raccoon. Like they have that little side, little fluff of fur. And like this be the face, and they have like the eyes and the little nose. And this would really be the nose here. I think that'd be cute. And like, again, I've seen bunnies and I've seen cats. So woodland creatures are not out of the realm of possibility for the 40s as far as bibs go. And the square one, which we can just embroider. But yeah, definitely will have to work on those when I find my stuff. It's packed away somewhere. I don't even know where at this point. It could be in the storage unit. It could be here somewhere. It could be at my grandmother's house. It could be in a box somewhere. I don't know. There's no way this is going to fit an infant. This is like 2-year-old size. And again, I don't know whether the pattern, not maker, but the person who graded up the pattern that I bought the pattern from, I don't know whether she graded up incorrectly or if this is just the size, which wouldn't make any sense because clearly it's a baby in the pictures and it's a baby that's sitting up. So a slightly older baby, but it's not a toddler. And this is the size of a toddler, very clearly. And it's not the way I printed the pattern out because I print out patterns all the time. I know how to grade things up. I matched, it says this square should be 3 inches square or 1 inch square or whatever. And I matched that every time. So I know I printed it out correctly. That's not the issue. The pattern was graded incorrectly. But a baby will just swim in that. But it'll keep them warm. So I guess it'll still work. And down the road, if we do an event and I do have a tinier infant, we'll make it again, just do it a smaller size, and I'll grade it myself this time, do all the work myself. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and it's a great toddler size. I mean, it'll definitely get used. It's just not what I was planning to make. But I can still wrap an infant up in this, and it will work short term if I had to. And the blue one, which I also do just absolutely adore. I like that the embroidery is a little bit more prominent on this one than it is on the other one. I think the larger size thread really was a good thing. It'll be very warm and soft on the inside. I mean, it'll be soft and smooth on the other one, but this is very warm and soft. And this will be the warmer of the two. And they should both be quite warm. I mean, there's a flannel layer and one's silk, which is very warm, and one's wool, which is also very warm. So either way, they'll be very nice and toasty. But the inside of it, I just left these white too, because again, white here, and white doesn't look bad with a blue. It doesn't really clash, so it'll work too. I mean, I could also dye that one, but there's already 2 shades of blue, with this being slightly different than this. And if it didn't match one or the other, I think it would just look weird to have another shade of blue. So I'd either dye these gray, or I'd leave them white, which will stain, but you know what? It's okay. But yeah, those are our little, I guess it's outerwear. I'm calling it outerwear. Like the sacques and the bibs technically are all outerwear. So a little 1930s outerwear for little toddlers. And those will fit babies. At the very least, the bibs will fit the babies. And again, I can wrap a baby into that sack. It just won't fit them necessarily. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today as we made our 1930s infant outerwear or baby and toddler outerwear. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Click the little bell notification so you're notified anytime I upload a new video. And as always, have a fantastic week, and I'll see you back here in the next video.